What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the very first episode of 2025 of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa. You know, my co-host over here is Justine, and this is episode 100. Before we get into why, I know why you guys all clicked on this. I'm aware, but I want to acknowledge the fact that we hit 100 episodes. We do not do that alone. Whether you have shared the show, you've liked the show, you've listened to the show, you have been a guest on our show, forever thankful for you, and you are the reason why we got to 100 episodes. I will be forever thankful to anyone that gives our show the time of day. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Because of you, we are able to do things like we are about to do, and you guys are about to listen to. Today in the show, Justine and I had the absolute honor of being joined by our favorite musician of all time, Anthony Green. I feel like he needs no introduction, so I'm just going to say that. He is a man that wears many hats, and I am forever thankful for the conversation we were able to have with him. I'm sure talking about his mental health journey and so many things we discussed in here was not an easy thing, and I'm forever thankful for that trust that he had in us to have that conversation. And I know so many will resonate with so many things said in here, and words will never do justice about how much I appreciate that. Anthony also went above and beyond to make sure this happened for this. This was over a year in the making, and I cannot thank him enough as well for taking the time for us. And I know what a privilege it is to get the amount of time that we had with him, especially on a show day. A simple thank you will never be enough. I gotta give a shout out to Justine. She had a major dental surgery before we were recording this episode. She flew out here to New Jersey to do it. It would not have been right to do this without her. She's a trooper. We recorded this episode at Crossroads in Garwood, New Jersey, an iconic venue, and I'm so glad it's forever tied to this episode because I think it set the mood so perfectly. It's one of my all-time favorite venues here in New Jersey. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, you gotta come here. So there's gonna be some grit to this one. You're gonna hear the background noise. The three of us sat in a corner and had this really meaningful conversation, and I'm so excited to invite you guys all into that conversation. You're gonna hear the background noise we felt. You're gonna hear everything, and I think that really keeps the just rawness of the conversation. And I'm really excited to now invite you guys all in on this wonderful conversation. Can't believe I'm about to say this, but here is our conversation with Anthony Green. Funny that we're here because I don't know, do you remember this thing? Oh, you had interviewed me for a Circa Survive thing.
Holy shit.
And I have it, and it talks about like how I wanted to have something to interview bands, and I just want to do it because I love music so much. And I'm like looking back at that in 2011, and then we're here is just, that's crazy to me.
It is wild, isn't it?
To think all that time and to have that and still think that.
Yeah, whenever you're, faced with the like measurement of like the passage of time by events in your life, it's always like breathtaking, It's like seeing the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Crazy. Where are you and me?
I'm somewhere there. I think towards the end.
I think you were at the
end.
Like
Circa fans or something for something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel? Like as a person that's been listening and like kind of consuming at it from that end of it, like what is it like for you?
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild because I gave it up for years because I was going through a lot. I moved here, took a chance. And from moving here, being lonely, no friends, the worst, like my anxiety was the worst it's ever been. I didn't even want to listen to music. I didn't want to do it. But I was like, right in the pandemic, I was so upset. I was like, you know what? Why can't I start a podcast? Yeah. Every dude with a mic has a podcast. And I just did it.
Yeah.
And then when I did it, I was like, I've got this. I can do this too. Why can't I do it? And you hit hurdles with it, obviously, because you're a girl. We're talking alternative music. We've been called posers, everything. But it was like, for me, I'm like, I want to be for that younger girl, or even girls here, like we met today, to be like, I can do that too. Yeah. Like, that's what I want to do. And like, that's what this podcast is, like music and mental health. But it's also like, I want those people to say they can do it. They can learn it. If I can learn this, you can learn it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're becoming what you wished as like a young girl that you had, for other people. And in doing that, you are that. I guarantee there's people that hear your podcast and through the bands and the people that you interview and are inspired to just create, whether it's a podcast or whether it's just to have their voice heard, your voice is needed. And I'm so proud of you. It's cool to see it as like somebody who sees it from such a weird vantage point, to watch somebody who like you just kind of know from VIPs and being front row and seeing them, kind of evolve, and hearing you make a positive, seeing you make a positive impact and hearing how much you celebrate music on this. It gave me like such like a feeling I think that you'd have if like your brother or your sister or your cousin like does something really cool and you're just proud of them. I'm like, yeah, I know I don't know you, but I do know that you're positively affecting the thing that I love so much, and you're doing it out of this inspiration that you get from it. So you're continuing this beautiful cycle, and it just makes me honored to be sitting here talking to you after all this time.
Like I told myself, like, I'm not going to cry on here. I'm not going to do it, because I just felt like it's a different way, right? Like it's a different type of thing to have someone's music. When we talk music and mental health, someone's music that has helped both of us, to then be sitting here with you. It's like, your music through the years has inspired us, inspired me, that like, I can do that. I can create something. Even if it's not perfect, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you can put something good out. And that's why anyone I talk to on the podcast, when they walk away and they're like, I needed this conversation, like I needed this, I needed that, especially when I get dudes on here, and I'll get a group of like 4 or 5 dudes, and they are like, we don't get deep, we don't talk mental health, but because of you, we are. And like, that's above any number, any play, anything is that. So, and then like, knowing you're such a big mental health advocate, it was like, we got to ask you. Finally mustered it up and was like, I'm going to ask him just to come on.
Let me just say that I don't like thinking of it as my music, because like, as much as like that is a forced thing, like, yeah, there's my name on a record and stuff like that. And people, that's how it all works with the having to deal with the commerce aspect of all this. I think music is like an entity that exists, and I don't think it requires me to exist. And I don't think even the things that come out of me in the act of creation are mine or fully representative of who I am, as much as it is a greater thing. And that's why I really appreciate being here, and I appreciate you talking about all this stuff, because I do look at music a little bit differently than most people, or a lot of people that I meet. And I think that it goes hand in hand with all this stuff that we're talking about with mental health. And I think there's a large component to listening and creating with music that is not reliant on a computer or an instrument, even that in your hand, singing can do something for your soul and your spirit and connect you with somebody else. And it's such an intimate, valuable act that I don't know. I wish to bring that to people more, and not be such a self-centered thing where it's like, yes, I love that you're buying my record and I want to celebrate these songs, and these songs are so important, but I just care that you're celebrating music. And I just like that I'm a part of that. I always want to be a part of that, but it's not mine to own. You know what I mean? Like, I have to take part of this commerce dance, but it's not mine. And it's not my music that helped you. It's just music that helped you. And it helped me too in the same exact way.
I love how you put that, because I think that's what I kind of had to do too. It's like, not just a specific, but music. Or like, even last year, I remember being in the same room at Crossroads, and the question and answer, and just that energy allowed me to like go home and like, all right, what are my next episodes and who am I talking to? Because it gave me that, and the people I met because of that. Because again, thank you for wanting me to talk about the podcast then, because the people that I've met, they were so wonderful. Like Scott today, like there's so many I can name that they were like in my DMs, like, oh, I listened to your show. I'm so thankful for like that outlet. And for you, whether it is your music or creation, how has music made an impact in your mental health where other things didn't make that?
For a long time, I think I allowed it to become a very toxic thing in my life. I think my perspective on what my role was I didn't have great legs yet. And so my ego got in the way, and in all different levels, ego can stop you whether it's too much or too little. And having being fortunate enough to be able to do this for so long, I've really got to make so many mistakes and learn from them. And those are the things that have gotten me closer to figuring out, like, do I really want with this? What is it that I want? Because if, like, I'm going to be bummed about not selling this many records as compared to that many records, like, that's not what I want. Like, I think that from the beginning, this playing music, performing music for people gave me such a feeling. And that feeling of connection and communication is too abstract for me to, like, pinpoint in, like, just words. I feel so close to God when I'm playing music, when I'm writing music, and when I'm in the thick of it. And having to deal with the selling of it and the image of it and all that stuff can really hurt that if you don't have it in a place where it's safe. And so kind of learning how I can create and share and do it in a way that's truest for me and isn't relying on an outcome, like it doesn't need to be like, on the iTunes top, whatever. It doesn't need to be big in whatever sense of the word that is. Like, it just needs to be true and honest of what I can do, what I'm capable of, and what I want to give to it. And when I looked at music, started looking at it more like that, just as a practice, and not tying my identity so much into it, but really seeing myself as just like a making noise, like a little kid just making noise, and sometimes making a noise that's like this, and sometimes making a noise that's like that, and fucking doesn't need to define me any more than anything does. Like, that freed me a lot. And so I think that it can be tough for artists who are in comparison with each other and competition with each other. And even ambition in and of itself can be very, like, challenging for someone. But music has the ability to really nurture your soul and really just help you discover things about yourself and others and nature, and get you close to, like, the nature and the source, I think, of life. And I want to get close to that. I don't know if you make the most money doing that.
The industry, I think, too, when I think about mental health, I know when we had Kaylee Goldsworthy on, that I love her so much. She's
great.
Oh,
she's eloquent.
Oh, things she said in there I take with me still to this day about, like, even this, I took in our conversation about, say you've never done anything before, having that confidence that, like, you can do it. Just do something once, and then you didn't know how to do it before that. And I think she really touched on mental health and the industry. Like, I can only imagine for you being in this industry and then everything mental health, because the industry doesn't care. No. They don't. And I'm not even in the industry, but I see enough of it.
I don't think any industry. I'm not sure it's just music, and I know that it's easy to, but no industry cares that is relying on the bottom line. Their people and human needs are always going to fall by the wayside when it is, like, capital that is the number one goal at the end of this. And, like, if you look at, like, the biggest restaurant in the United States is, like, McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if every, person would agree that it's, like, the best restaurant, but it might be, like, the most popular and the one that's not. And so I think a long time ago I had to figure out, like, what do I want to be in this industry? Like, where do I want to see myself? Do I want to fight to get to the top? Or do I just want to fight to be the best that I can be, and be okay with, like, maybe not competing with other people who are better at, either fucking playing some kind of game, or, like, being a character, or, like, putting out something they don't like, or I don't know. It just seems like there's this part of music where it's like, you can do really, really good as long as you dumb it down a little bit, or you play the game a little bit. And, like, it's way easier not to, for me. And to just, do what I can. And, like, if I'm lucky to be able to do this for a living, but if I, had a good job, I'd work anywhere, like, to get the afford to play music, it's my joy. And I don't know if, like, your calling is always meant to be the thing that is, like, you're doing for money, I'd probably be just as happy if I was, in a band playing, like, a couple times a year with my friends. Like, who knows? I'm lucky to be I'll do it like this as long as I can, but it's not reliant on any of that. It's purely, like, this is like a spiritual relationship I have with music. I couldn't hold it accountable for my bills like that.
I think that's so important, especially nowadays where we live in a capitalistic country, world, really. And too many people focus more on the money. How many people, like you were talking about? And a lot of times you can tell, like, they lose a certain humanistic quality to their music a lot of times. And it's just...
And yet some of that music will resonate with people so hard.
Absolutely.
It saves their life as well.
And because, like, it's one of those things where it's like, if that's all you know, is capitalism and consuming, that's all you want and that's all you need.
Right.
Whereas if you are searching for something a little more, because capitalism just doesn't do well with you and your lifestyle or what's happening with your mental health even, that makes music a little different in how you view it.
It's so funny because art is just such a tricky thing like that, because, something can be made by accident and just resonate with people. And, capitalism and commerce get confused so often. For hundreds of years before capitalism existed, people traded things. And there was like Mesopotamia had the shekels. Capitalism in and of itself, the way it is done now is not working for the people. That when you see people or a corporation do, like it's like that age-old story, like trying to fucking hoard the gold.
Yes.
Thing, like it
Absolutely.
never ends up good.
No,
like
exactly.
And I think there's a way that people can exist and trade and share where people aren't getting left in the lurch. I'm not sure. My path has been paved from the from the gates. And to not recognize that would be like a curse. That would be a sin. And I have this like, but it's not like I had it easy, and I think it's not the same. I know it's not the same for women. I know it's not the same for people of color. I know that I think it's important for anybody that's got their foot in the door at all to just fucking keep it in there and try to just fuck shit up so they're equalized. Figure out what that is still.
Oh, same.
A lot of it requires me putting on my listening cap. And like when you're on your listening cap,
sometimes that's what you need to do.
Everybody wants you to say something. Like, make your. I want to know what you say. You should say this. Yes. You should say that. And it's like, whoa, wait now. Like I need to listen. Yeah. And
we're seeing that a lot online, even especially.
Oh my God, I've seen you have to deal with people. Yeah. And so like for me to best be able to help get the people who are haven't had the same path of like complete and utter privilege, I think it's important to listen and just figure out where we can speak up and where we can shut the fuck up.
Absolutely. Yes, and it's so important. And I think that's the first path forward, is to know that, like, okay, my life has been easier than others. And like you said, the thing I've learned the most, especially when it comes to trying to figure out how to help more, has been to just shut the fuck up. It's the best you can do 100%. When somebody else has had something worse than you. Just shut up and listen. Mm-hmm. And if they want you to do something specifically to help, they'll tell you.
Yep.
But you need to wait for them to give you that info and tell you what happened, what they need.
I completely agree. I do. I think that there's a give and take that is missing from the etiquette in a lot of things, and in modern day society, where people don't listen to each other and they won't consider each other's thoughts and feelings. And again, I'm not suggesting that anybody who has been fucking oppressed and wronged have to sit and fucking chew on somebody else's opinion and feeling. And I know that it's way more nuanced than that. Mm-hmm. I just know from my vantage point, which is just that one of like, not having to deal with all that oppression and all that shit. Like, it's easy for me to be like, oh yeah, we gotta fucking listen and be peaceful. But it might be past that. I don't know.
It's one of those things where if it's
I got it.
There it is. Yeah.
Is that a coffee too?
Yep.
I see.
Oh my God, we're
so
fucking
funny.
ripping capitalism right
Yeah.
now.
Look at that.
I don't even want to say that.
We won't speak about that. That's okay.
McDonald's.
And that's a big problem too. It's like, what is the most accessible thing? And sadly, it's usually something like McDonald's.
Unfortunately, what's going to happen before any systematic change happens is we're all going to have to reject their money. We're going to have to reject their products. We're going to have to go into full-blown like
as
community mode.
Yes.
And I mean, I sit on the top of this mountain all the time and I'm like, I can't fucking do it. I got these kids that need school. I got these kids that need this thing. And I keep walking the fucking path with the gun to my head.
Yeah.
And at some point, everybody who's doing that is going to start not giving a shit anymore.
Yeah.
And I like once a week, I'm like, I'm fucking pulling my shit off Spotify, and I get people in my life that are working with me like, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, this shit's fucking stupid. I can't do it.
Like, the biggest thing that is talked about in, like, I'm in leftist spaces online, which that is another hellscape, but that's a whole other story. But something that we talk about that is really important. But like what we always say is important, like we live in a capitalistic country. If you're going to try to boycott everything, you're going to be on the streets, and that's not going to help anybody.
Yeah.
You need to you're still going to have to consume a certain amount. It's just what ones are the things that are going to work best for you to keep alive for the moment.
Is just suspending the dollar.
Yeah.
Spending $1 anywhere is, you're implicit in the system. So we're all being held hostage by it.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's going to change is a ton of people being like, nope, I don't give a fuck about gas. I don't give a fuck about money. I don't give a fuck. I'm not paying my fucking rent. I'm not paying my fucking taxes. And it's going to be, it's hard for me to imagine it not being forceful.
Yeah.
And them not coming down. Like I want to envision this peaceful revolution. And I want to, and I have the privilege.
Exactly.
But when I listen, I hear a lot of people who have been speaking up for a really, really long time and murdered for a really long time. And I don't know what the next step is when you have no choices and corporations run everything.
Speaking of corporations, something that I want to specifically ask you about is that you have been through a misdiagnosis in your time. And
which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about schizophrenia, but if you have more to talk about, please open up.
Let's do that one.
So I know, like myself even, has gone through that. So many people I know. As a female, I got diagnosed with autism finally at 34, whereas all my life, it was like, what I was taught was autism was wrong. Most of us have been taught wrong, and we only think of somebody who is very high supports, which that's not what it is. And I've gone all this time, and it took going through trauma work that my therapist of years finally was like, oh wait, hold on a minute. We need to talk about this. I've been seeing some flags for a while, and brought it up to me.
Wow.
And then I brought it up to my mom, and my mom was like, oh yeah, no, I've known since you were like an infant, and I was fighting, but the doctors didn't listen, and they started kind of acting like my mom had Munchausen by proxy.
Oh, was this a relief for you? Or
yes.
Okay.
Because I always knew something was wrong, and so I kept seeking out. That's why I started therapy, because like at 14, I was like, something's not right with me, and I always kind of knew something was different, but I didn't know what. And like I knew I had developmental things that weren't the same other people. Like, I wasn't verbal until I was 4, and that's not normal. So I had all these things, these developmental issues. I've always had all these learning disabilities. It never clicked because I didn't know. And then once I started researching after I got diagnosed, it was like, oh shit, I don't know what my personality is anymore, because most of it is autism related. And because of that, like I realized how many of us have dealt with misdiagnosis. Like it's not even just autism, it's a lot of things, especially if it's not like your average like depression or anxiety, and it gets pushed off a lot as that sometimes. Like for me, it was, they told me, you just have depression and anxiety, you're fine, like that's it. Meanwhile, none of the medications ever really worked because it wasn't just that.
God, the trial and error of the medications is like such a fucking process in and of itself.
I've gone through so many weird symptoms because I didn't need that medication.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm glad that you have this peace now.
Yeah, it made everything make sense. And I'm still learning more stuff even until this day. It was like, oh shit, okay, that's also autism. And all of that. And it's made even my like trauma that I've been through. It was like a lot of the things that triggered from that person were autism related things as well. For me, like my autism traits were setting him off, which sometimes happens with people, especially if they don't know that that's what's wrong with you. You know what I mean? Before I even had anxiety and depression labeled for me, before that, I thought maybe I was bipolar because I knew, like, I was like, I don't think it's anxiety and depression. I'm like, I think something else is going on because nothing ever resonated with what people who only have depression or only have anxiety have. And I'm like, I got something way worse. Like, that's not right. That's not what it is. And I know that you dealt with, you know, having schizophrenia and then, well, they thought it was schizophrenia and then you found out it was bipolar. And I'm just curious how it was for you getting to that place.
It was really scary when that happened. I was immediately put on a bunch of medication that really, really fucked me up and altered different things in my life. And I couldn't think and I couldn't sleep, but I couldn't rest, and I was gaining weight and losing weight, and it was just so difficult. And continued using drugs and alcohol throughout it, along with the medication and stuff, and eventually hit a wall where a doctor was like, let's just take a little. And I also didn't want to tell anyone either. I didn't want anyone to know because I was terrified of it. And there wasn't really anybody to talk to about it. So I had a doctor, I broke down in a rehab. And I had a psychiatrist who was like, a lot of times people have drug-induced psychosis that gets misdiagnosed. And so let's get you clean for 60 days and let's take you to another psychiatrist and let's take a look at this. And so I got really clean, like not like stopped doing heroin, but like still drank and smoked weed. Like I didn't do anything. Then 60 days I was still hurting at that point, but the doctor was almost sure within 15 minutes of talking to me that I wasn't schizophrenic, but that I was experiencing a touch of drug-induced psychosis, also just brought on by severe bipolar. And I would have hallucinations, and like I'd get, really erratic and run off. And then I had some bad spells before I didn't even want to admit that I was bipolar. I was scared. I was just as scared as that.
It's another thing that like
anybody. And so for a few years I was being told by people that I was bipolar and I needed to get medication for it. And then I started taking medication, but it wasn't the right shit. I was taking that for a while and that was so tough. And honestly, people's journey with bipolar is all different. And so when I found this medication I'm on right now that I love so much, and it has helped me immensely, and I still experience all of the symptoms of bipolar, but I can manage them.
Exactly.
I don't have like spells where I'm talking to people, seeing things and feeling like somebody's running after me, or I still experience mania. I still deal with it, but it's like I've never had a grip on it like I have now. Yeah. And it's still a big challenging thing, but I also think that it's like part of the reason why I get creative bursts of like energy that funnels some of the stuff that I can do with music and with even just like with my kids, and like things like with my friend. Like I have like whatever you are, or you decide you are, or whatever you ever decide you discover you are, whatever you invent of yourself. I like to think about how I'm bringing something good to the world, all aspects. Yeah. And I get these bursts of energy, that I can funnel into good things for people around who aren't just like, like nervous biting my fingernails and, making a house of cards, It's like, and then when there's moments of decreased energy and pull back a little bit, I have a moment where I can be really introspective and I can feel deeply. And I can get messages from my deep feelings. And some of it is good. Some of it is like needs to be let go of, but it's all like such a challenge. Each step of it has helped me become a better friend, better father, better partner, better musician, and more present. And I wish that I had more confidence in people in my life. When I was going through that stuff, I wish I had a better relationship with myself, to be humble and say, I'm going through this, I need help. I think isolating myself and not talking about it and hiding it is caused tremendous tension.
I think another thing, like with people, with just the stigma around addiction, is that
There's nothing wrong with it.
I know that now.
So you say this like, oh, there's something, and like, there was different.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong.
Well, I mean,
and
like
we're all different, but like you are.
I meant more so like in comparison of what I was seeing around me.
Yeah.
I was told by my psychiatrist, she was like, "You're extremely hypervigilant, like extremely." Like I picked up on things like a tone, facial like features. As soon as it turned, I would know.
Yeah.
And
I know that when we're
right?
in Zoom,
I see you. Like somebody can give you a look and
Yes.
just cuts your heart into a billion little.
And I'm like,
she knows.
that's something fucked up. It's like that's something that like a lot of us. I used to.
Poetry is like
I used to
it's like
in high school. I actually got put in a book
a really
once.
good outlet for people with a heart like that.
Yeah, like I used to be doing that. See, I've always tuned into music. I'm not good at it, but
What is
like
good music?
if it wasn't for
that you will,
you know,
you'll be like, this is not good, and then it's people's favorite thing.
Yeah.
There's no good.
It's
Music's
like-
all just a big divine fart, you know. And we take it so, and I'm like, oh, this song's about me not killing myself, and it's like I'm so important.
Yeah.
No, at the end of the day, it is that, but it's also just a fart. Me and Tim Arnold, who plays drums for me,
Yeah.
discovered this in a conversation. We're like, dude, it's the divine fart. It is all knowing and all important and creates everything, but it's also just a fart. It's not that. But I also worship it.
Yeah.
Both of those things for me. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I can't let it be but it's also just the most important thing in my life. You know what I mean?
No, it's
And I taking it seriously and loving this fart and the way this fart smells and like sound and everything is the best part of it. It's the worst example, but it really truly it makes it seem like you're being like dismissive of how important and valuable music is, but it's not. It's just to me it is the most important and valuable thing.
I mean, it still makes sense because everybody's got a fart.
Because everybody is.
It's what we teach the kids.
It's how
We're like, it's fine, farts happen.
Farts fucking explode.
Exactly.
Farts and you're like, that's it. In seeing it as the fart, it brings me immense joy.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to worry. You know.
I mean, just like farts.
I can
Farts
just
also bring joy because it's hilarious.
Don't laugh at a fart.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Don't laugh at a fart. You got something wrong.
Even talking about that joy, something we were talking about this morning, just by thinking, because with Ellis Dunes, you can just see how happy you are.
Yeah.
And that joy is back there. And whether it was Seosin, Son of Animals Fighting, I'm not going to forget them all. Like fucking whatever.
Zola,
every
Rock and Roll Destroyer.
Just the joy. Like when I saw you, where was it? I think Asbury Lanes. And you guys came here, Ellis Dunes, and you see the joy. And like any video, it's there. Whether, I don't know if you felt like you lost it at all at ever, that joy. But for us to see that, it was like, whenever anyone says like, oh, I wish he would do this or that, like, no, this is where he should be. This is his joy right now. I can tell this.
Yeah.
I'm lucky in a sense that at every stage of my career, somebody was telling me I should be doing something else. Like, and when I was in, when I started Circa and people started finding out, people were like, you should be in Seosin. When I was doing one thing, it's always like that. So it doesn't really faze me that much. And the majority of the people who support me, like I'm saying majority, I'm saying 99.999% are all just people that really want me to feel like, really just show up and if I'm happy and healthy and they just want to see that. And I love doing so much. It's like crazy. It was like a lever in the shape of a band that got thrown to me in like the weirdest time. And I'm so grateful for it. And those guys we're already writing new music and it's it's such a joy. And there's a lot of new music on the horizon, I feel bad for people who want something or another thing or want you to play one thing and want you to be with one band or the other. I feel bad for them because I know it's what it's like to want something like that and to think that that's going to that would be great, but it's different for everybody.
I think part of that is just the idea of something being different. And it's that scared but now he's with a different group of people, so it's gonna be different. But like she said, as two fans that have been there since way back, the progression you have taken, you've gotten better with every project. Like, I think what you're doing right now is the best you've ever done.
Thanks. I feel that.
Yeah,
But
we
I also
can see that and hear it.
I feel like I'd probably be biased. But I do feel like closer to my craft than ever. And I get more joy out of creating, and I get more joy out of letting go and giving it away because I know it's good, like from what I think is good. So if anybody cuts into it, it's like, I'm gonna shit because I love it so much. Like it hits that thing for me. And that's cool. And just also, I'm just so fortunate. It's crazy. I said it earlier, but I have had I think little helpers or angels or whatever, just looking out for me, just catching me right before I hit the ground. And I'm really grateful for it. And Dunes is like that. Dunes kind of is such a fun band. It's like the most fun experience ever. And I'm excited for you guys to hear the record.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Paper Tigers, that song, I'm like, I feel like
it's so good.
It's so good.
I'm so glad you like it.
I love it.
That's one of my favorites.
I mean,
the video that Cedric made is really, really cool too. It's crazy. He's just the fact that he wanted to do that is so cool.
It's like, while we keep talking, I want to be respectful of your time. Yeah. How much time?
I probably have what time is it right now?
7:20.
Okay, let's do another 5-10.
So I want to thank you too for having a safe scene New Jersey's here today for their harm reduction. And I talked to them and we've been in DMs. I'm like, I got to get you on my podcast. Like, you need to come here. And I appreciate that and hearing that, because we were talking to you like growing up, when you talk about things like addiction, there was always an image of it, but seeing that like things like harm reduction exist, I had no idea that was a thing. Yeah. And it's really shown me like, wow, I need to educate myself for those struggling around me, or just whether they're family members or friends, like things maybe I wish I did do when they were struggling and I didn't push so hard. And I'm just like, I'm glad I'm here where I can check myself and be like, looking back, I wish I knew that, but also understanding like, I didn't know that. Like the culture was different. How important is that for you to have someone like Safe Scene New Jersey here and in their harm reduction? I can't wait to go visit them after this.
First, I just want to say you should offer yourself a little grace from that, because as a society, we don't treat addiction and substance abuse issues like in a way that with compassion, understanding. And that's not how we're default settings. Like that's not how we are. Like, and so and it's also very challenging to deal with somebody in active addiction and to know how to respond to that and to know what, and it's not like something, there isn't like a one size fits all for it either. But I will say that Narcan saved my life a few times. I'd be dead. And I've gone through the most hardcore levels of like fentanyl addiction, where it's like you can't get Narcan enough, and it's not taking you, and it's like you're gonna get Narcan 4 times and they still need to like resuscitate you, and it's like the worst thing imaginable. It's like I the experience that I had in active addiction was such a nightmare, and it tore me into a million pieces and people around me. And like by the grace of love itself, I had the opportunity to start piecing the puzzle back together. And I want to make sure every step that I take from now on, that helping others that deal with substance abuse issues is there, not just for the service aspect of it, which is important in and of itself, but just it keeps recovery a part of my everyday life. It keeps me scared of fentanyl and crack and alcohol and everything else, and it keeps like a healthy fear. When I would go to like Atlantic City with my mom when I was a little kid, I'd go play in the ocean, and she'd be like, she had this way of instilling this healthy fear where I could go out a certain bit and have fun. But she let you know, you go out too far, you're gonna get fucking drowned. And I feel like there's this healthy fear that I hold on to with the fentanyl and the heroin and all that stuff, that I never want to go back there. And it's such a mind altering experience. It changes you. It changes how you look at everything, and it strangles your life force. And you really need help when you're going through that. And so when people are going through that, I think there needs to be people who are able to reach out and like say, hey, I fucking know exactly what this is. Like, I'm there for you. I don't care your hands all covered in shit. I'm going to pull up and pull out, like, I don't care that, you lied to me. You know what I mean? You can only put up with stuff for a certain amount of time. Like, I don't care that you stole from me, whatever. Like, I'm going to try to be here for you in some way. I want to be that for people because the people were that for me. And without it, I would be fucking dead, you know? And so it serves a two-pronged purpose. I think that we really need to change the way we look at people that are suffering from substance abuse. And I think there's a lot that needs to be done. And harm reduction there's like a lot of spectrums of it where people have opinions on what it is and what it shouldn't be and shouldn't be. But I do think we're getting closer and closer to knowing truer, like that this system that we have in place where it's for profit rehabs and private insurance rehabs and fucked up things are fucking not helping people. And the way that, you know, the drug companies are incentivized to prescribe, you know, certain medications, and there's no withdrawal protocols in the United States for like prescribing certain types of shit. I just think there's a lot that needs to change. And a lot of it starts in education form, but like if as a person who is, you know, an addict who is now just literally every day being like, thank fucking God I'm not doing that anymore. Thank fucking God I need somebody help me get out of there. Like 100 people help me get out of it. I want to help others.
Yeah.
And you are. And I'm like, oh, let's see. I'm like, do we give you to the 10 more minutes? But we've covered it. Like, so I was so nervous because I was like, how much time do we have? But we can't thank you enough for this. This has been such, before in the morning, admittedly, I was very nervous because I was like, I've never done this before. I'm very like nervous about it. But like, once we saw you in VIP and got that hug, I was like, it's okay. I have notes. I didn't use any notes.
Bearing with me, you know, I know you had to bear with me a little bit on it, so I appreciate it. And you do something really important. And I think that drawing the line between what people are experiencing when they hear these songs and these bands that are touching on something a little bit more emotional, and talking about those feelings and where they come from and where they are, and is this bad, is this good, how do we deal with this? That needs to happen. And I think the more that happens, the more we're going to get to know each other, the more we're going to get to like the path forward toward understanding and being together like a unified front as people. And that's what the hardcore community, that's what punk rock, that's what all this shit's about. It's this community of art loving people. And I really think it's important when you guys are doing that. I appreciate you letting me be on it. They make this part one. Again.
Any time. And all right, guys, that was our conversation with Anthony. Cannot thank him enough again for everything he did to make sure this happened. Forever thankful for him. A fan of over 20 years. And I think I became an even bigger one. And I didn't think that was possible after this conversation. I am so excited to see what's up ahead for Ellis Dunes. We've got Violet at the end of the month, and hearing him and just seeing the joy he had for this band. I'm so excited to hear this record. All links below to find him if for whatever reason you have not found him yet. Go ahead and catch up. Get to know Anthony. I would love to send more people his way if you're unsure who Anthony Green is, but I'm sure a lot of you do. I also have links below for Safe Scene New Jersey. Travis does amazing work. I'm so excited that I got to meet him at Crossroads in New Jersey. I would love to send more people his way and help support what he is doing for the music scene here and harm reduction. I wanted to shout them out because I mentioned them in this episode. You'll have secret recordings. Go ahead and check them out. Kevin Marcoux. He is a guest and a friend. He had helped with so much get me the recordings at a decent level. Appreciate him so much. And as for our show, if you are liking this thing even just a little bit, a positive rating review helps support our show. A follow, a subscribe helps support us as well. It's the easiest thing you can do for any show and shows like ours. I cannot wait to share what's next ahead this year for this show. Thank you so much for checking us out if this is your first time, and we'll see you guys next time. All right, bye guys.